What's up, everybody? Mark and I are back. Now, if you don't know, a couple days ago, we did a mock draft where we went through the first round. We picked for all 32 teams. This time we're back where we're doing the second round. Maybe it will take as long. We'll see. Mark says he's got some more trades up his sleeve this time around, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But it should be fun. There's more picks this time. It should be more chaotic a little bit. Now we got past the primary crop of players, so it'll be interesting to see what we get into. And Mark, I'm going to throw your screen up here now so we can see what you're seeing.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, you got the odd picks this time around. So Cincinnati, this is your pick at 33.
Yeah, just to say, here's the recap on the left here, and then I'll send Sam the link when this is done to post in the description for the YouTube video later. But yeah, let's get into it with Cincinnati here. So we have them taking Joe Burrow round 1, which I think everyone thinks is the obvious choice at this point. But round 2 could go a couple different ways. We look at what's on the board here. They could probably use some more wide receiver help. I know they franchised AJ Green, and they have a couple good depth players there at receiver. They could go receiver. I don't see them going receiver. You look at their biggest need is probably an edge rusher, but to me, I wouldn't reach for one here. I look at that third need, an interior offensive lineman, and I see Cesar Ruiz here from Michigan, and I think he's a really good player. Probably the best interior offensive lineman in this draft. It's a not a very deep class for offensive linemen on the inside of guards and centers. So I think they take him here. They bolster that need, and rather than reaching for a player that they might really need at 33 here, they settle for interior offensive line, another need they need. So.
Yeah, I'm impressed with that pick. I think it's actually a very good pick. I thought you were going to go wide receiver for a second. I'm like, well, they don't really need a wide receiver. But no, I think we made a great selection there because you look at what their center was last year. They played Trey Hopkins at center. Now, he's originally a guard. They moved him to center, just first year at center. And he's originally an undrafted free agent. So this isn't the guy who we see him selected in the draft.
Right.
I feel like they might not like cut him, but they could move him to guard if they feel like they give him more guard depth somewhere else. And put Cesar Ruiz as the center. I think that fixes a lot of the issues on the offensive line.
Right.
Now you've got a unit that's ready to protect Joe Burrow. So it's a good pick. I like what they've done there with that one.
Absolutely. For sure.
Now it brings us to the Colts. Now,
first pick in the draft for them.
Yeah, they didn't pick in the first round because they made that trade with the San Francisco 49ers that acquired DeForest Buckner. So this is the first time they're showing up. And if you look at the Colts, I think their biggest need is probably receiver. I mean, I like what they put down for this draft. They're saying receivers a huge need. I think it is. I don't think you go interior offensive line. I don't think you go interior defensive line because you just got DeForest Buckner in trade. You got Jack Doyle at tight end. That's pretty good. And quarterback, you just signed Philip Rivers, and you have Jacoby Brissett on the roster, which tells me drafting a quarterback would probably be a lot of overkill. So I do think in this receiver class, you want to go wide receiver at this point. And we've got some good ones left on the board right now. I think we've got Laviska Shenault, we've got T. Higgins, we've got Denzel Mims, we've got Brandon Ayuk. So we've got several guys who are first-round caliber players. And I think of the guys that are left on the board right now, I think you have to go Laviska Shenault. I know he's got some injury concerns, and it's probably what scares away some teams from him. But at the same point, I think he's more dynamic than T. Higgins, and I think he's got a infinitely higher ceiling than someone like Denzel Mims. So I think Laviska Shenault is the athletic freak that they need in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I agree. You watch the tape, kind of a lesser known, at least on my part, when he goes to a small school in Colorado. So I didn't really know about him during the season, but once I saw the tape after the season and these draft boards started to come out, I was very impressed. I know the Eagles were linked to him in round 1, but with the injury history, he's kind of been turned off from a first-round pick. But I think this is a good spot for him. I think, like you said, he's very athletic, brings a lot to the table. He'll pair very well with T.Y. Hilton, who's getting up there in age. So he might even replace him a couple years down the line as their number 1. So I think this is a good pick for them. I agree. All right. Back to Detroit at 35 here. We had them take Okudah in round 1 at corner, the best corner in the draft, in my opinion. And at this point, the board's kind of iffy for me. A lot of people think these players up here are all first-round caliber. I'm glad they're not in our draft. I'm glad me and you are on the same page here. But I look at Gallimore here from Oklahoma, and they really do need an inside defensive tackle, just a big body there to solidify the gaps. So I think it's going to be him. Click the draft here. They go defense 2 in a row because their offense is really not too terrible. They underperformed last year because of the injuries to Matthew Stafford and inconsistent quarterback play. But they have Kenny Galladay on offense. They have the tight end they drafted last year, whose name is escaping me right now, but he'll be a good player. He can say, and he'll be a good player. So I don't see them going offense early in this draft. I like Gallimore here at 35 for them, just to bolster that defensive line.
Yeah, I think one place I think they're going to go either defensive line or running back at the spot. Cause I don't really know about Kerryon Johnson's health long term. I liked him a lot in college. I thought drafting him was one of the best moves the Lions have made recently.
Right.
But again, I don't know about the health long term. And if you've got the best running backs on the board still, you've got guys like who do we have? We've still got Jonathan Taylor and stuff like that available. So we've got players who are really potentially at first round grades for some teams. So I think you could see them potentially go running back. But I mostly agree. I do think interior defense line is a good spot. And it'd probably be Gallimore or Ross Blacklock from TCU. It's going to be one of those two guys. That brings up New York. And New York's an interesting scenario because they have a little bit of everything right now, and they still need to fix that offensive line. So we have them going Isaiah Simmons early on, and it leaves them without an offensive tackle. My biggest issue is you look at the guys who are still on the board. It's Austin Jackson and Urza Cleveland, the two top ones, in my opinion. We're still out there. I've seen Urza Cleveland go in several first-round mocks. I've seen Austin Jackson go in a couple of first-round mocks. But really, you're playing with fire if you're taking someone like that at this point. It's not a smart move in my mind. I think you're going to suffer long term. I look more towards defensive backs in a sense and see what they have available there. Someone like Antoine Winfield Jr. at safety is a guy who I like a lot. You still got Jeff Gladney available, and that's someone you like, I know.
Yeah, I do like Gladney.
Yeah, I know you do. I've got him actually going. I've got him going one of my first rounds coming up here, one of my newest ones. But I don't think they need a corner because they just signed James Bradbury. That's kind of telling me they're going to stay away from that. I do think they'll look around. They'll take a good, hard look at the offensive tackle spots. And I want to look up Urza Cleveland really quickly before we go in any further because I want to see where he played at Boise State. Because if he played right tackle, I can really see them trying to reach for him and see how he plays in place. But if he played left tackle, which he did play left tackle, so I wouldn't consider Urza Cleveland at the spot. I lean more towards taking Antoine Winfield Jr. at safety and going from there because they do have some needs back there. I don't think it's desperate, but you've got right now Jabril Peppers and Julian Love at safety. I think you could probably slide Julian Love back and put in Antoine Winfield Jr. day one.
Wow, so we're going Winfield Jr. at 36 here. Interesting. Okay. LA, the Chargers now. They took Justin Herbert at pick 6 in our round 1 mock. Again, a pick I don't necessarily agree with him going that high, but need outweighs talent at this point for the Chargers. So I'm looking at, and you mentioned the offensive tackles here. Same thing with the Giants. I think the Chargers do need outside offensive linemen. But again, these guys would really be reaching at this point. And I look at, the defensive back talent, like you mentioned, at this point is still there. I really like Gladney here. So I think I'm going to go with him for the Chargers. Look at 6 feet tall, 183 pounds. He's physical. Off the line, plays great man coverage, which is what the NFL is evolving into here. So I'm going to go Gladney for the Chargers.
Yeah, I think that's a case where the rich get richer at the cornerback spots. They already have Casey Hayward and Chris Harris and Desmond King. So you add Jeff Gladney there, and suddenly that's one of the best cornerback groups in the entire NFL. I think if he turns out to be as good as you're thinking he is, that turns into a huge boom for them and really will help them out long term. But that brings up the Carolina Panthers, who we had originally taking Derek Brown in the first round as one of the best players in the draft. Now, Carolina is a team that I think really needs to focus on the defensive side of the ball. I know they have offensive needs, but really I think if they're going to win games this year, it's going to be from playing defense. It's not going to be from the offense at all. I think Bridgewater is let's say he's an elite game manager. We'll say he's on that end of the spectrum. So
yeah, it's a good spot for him.
So if you're going to win games, you need help. I think specifically you look at cornerbacks. They just lost one guy. They just lost a guy signed the Giants in free agency, but you still have Dante Jackson. So you need a corner. You could say they need a safety. I don't think you're going to find a safety this early in the draft at this point. Personally, I think you have to narrow it down to edge and corner. And if we look at the available edge rushers, they still have guys like Terrell Lewis, who I like a lot from Alabama. I think there's some injury concerns there, and Curtis Weaver from Boise State. I'm okay going Terrell Lewis here, honestly. I think I'm going to take Terrell Lewis. I usually don't go this high for him, but I think in the case of the Carolina Panthers, you probably want the pass rush going. You want someone to pair with Brian Burns. I think Terrell Lewis could be a useful player for them.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned the injury concerns. The same reason I don't have him going this high in most of my mock drafts. But when he's healthy, he's an outstanding player, just like many people on Alabama's roster are. So the only concerns with him are the injury worries there. But other than that, I think he could be a great player for them. So I agree with you here. Edge rusher is probably the way to go. Okay, back to Miami at 39. See, this is tough. They've had 3 draft picks already, and they got their quarterback. We had them taking McKinney round 1 and DeAndre Swift. I don't see them going wide receiver, as dangerous as that would be for other teams, pairing a good wide receiver up with the core they have there in Miami. I look at this offensive tackle need that they didn't fill in round 1, and I think, again, need outweighs talent at this point. So I'm going to go to the offensive tackles here. I do like Ezra Cleveland. I like Wilson a lot too. I think he's really underrated. I like where these guys put him at maybe the 30th ranked product. Anywhere in that range is fine. But I like Austin Jackson the most for these guys. So I'm going to go Austin Jackson at USC for Miami here. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I have Austin Jackson going a couple of my first round mocks, but that's mostly because I think teams are enamored with his physical traits because he is physically gifted. I think he's one of the most dominant offensive lineman in the draft, but I think the issue with him is it's very raw. It's a very raw product. And if you think you can refine him, then you're going to take him that early. But the question is, with offensive linemen like that, it's always hit or miss. It's always a toss-up. So you really don't know what he's going to turn into at the next level.
Right.
Well, I think at 39th overall, that's pretty good value for that pick. I like what you've done there. And that brings up the Houston Texans at 40th overall. Now, the Texans have obviously had a questionable offseason, turning away DeAndre Hopkins and making moves for David Johnson. It's just, it's a crapshoot in Houston right now. They've really done nothing to help themselves for the last couple of years. And this system's saying the places they need help right now are edge and interior defensive line. I think interior defensive line's a good spot to go, even if you lost DeAndre Hopkins, because you've also lost DJ Reader, who was a big part of that defensive line. And really good against the run game. So I think you go there. And looking at the 2 guys who stand out are Justin Madubuike and Ross Blacklock. And I think I'm going to take Ross Blacklock at this spot. He's a guy I think could have a first-round grade if your team fits a scheme for him. But I don't think he's going to go in the first round. I think he's a guy who's going to fall into the second round and make some team very happy in the early to mid-40s.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of my early mocks, I had Blacklock going the end of round 1 to either Baltimore or Tennessee, but I think he falls a little bit here just because a bunch of other guys are rising into first round projections. So I think this is a good fit for him, and he definitely bolsters that defensive line in Houston. So I agree. All right, back to Cleveland. You stole my pick for this one with the Giants. When the Giants went Winfield here. I usually have Cleveland going Winfield to fill that safety need. And now I look at these guys, and I don't think they reach for anyone in particular here doesn't really pop for me at 41. This is tough.
See, I told you once we get to like the 40s and 50s and 60s, it's going to get difficult here, man. We're going to have to be really thinking on the fly here.
Yeah, and even I know they have a need for interior offensive line. I don't see them. As good as these guys are down here, I don't see them reaching for them either. So, who's available? I'm gonna make a trade here. I look at what's on the board. I'm gonna have Buffalo move up.
All right.
Let's see. Yeah, that's for a second round. Let's see if 2 and 6 will do it. The Browns. 41. See if this will do it. If not, I'll just click around. Wow, the Browns.
So you trying to get Buffalo to move up. Who do you think Buffalo's gonna? What do you think Buffalo wants at the spot? What do you think Buffalo sees?
So Buffalo, before they traded their first round pick for Stephon Diggs this offseason, I think they were going to go wide receiver. At this point, I still think they're going to pick a wide receiver. I either have them doing it back at 54, where they originally were, but the way this board is going, I think they're going to jump before a bunch of these wide receiver needy teams get into the ring here. And I look at Mims, and he's definitely a first-round prospect to a lot of people. We didn't take him because of the way we had things going. But I think Mims and Stephon Diggs with a developing Josh Allen at quarterback could be a very dangerous combination. So I'm going to go Mims to the Bills here at 41.
All right, so you take Mims. I would caution against getting too high on Mims. I have said in the past he's one of those like potential hidden gems in the draft, but I also would caution against making him go too high because of that. If you picked him in the middle of the second round, I think that's a good value. But if you get too high, it might be a little bit troublesome, especially if you're Buffalo and you already have Cole Beasley, John Brown, and Stephon Diggs.
Right.
So I don't know if they would necessarily trade up for him, but if he fell to them, I could see them potentially taking a bite and seeing how it would work out. But now you got Buffalo taking him. Now we go on to Jacksonville. And like I said, Jacksonville's a team, in my opinion, it's falling apart. I mean, it's a rebuild. I don't know. I think Doug Marrone, though, might mess it up because Doug Marrone might try to save his job and in the long run actually hurt the Jaguars by trying to make them competitive when they should be losing. So I like what they got right now. And you do see that cornerback need is still there because we did not fix that in the first round. Who did we give them in the first round? I forget. They traded back, and then we gave them Javon Kinlaw. That's who it is. All right, so we got Javon Kinlaw and Grant Delpit in the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still a really good haul. I still think those are two of the best players in the draft, so I have no problem with that. But now you look at it, again, I think really it starts on defense. I think it's cornerback. I think you really need to build the defense back up if you're going to be competitive. The offense, I mean, you can work with what you have on offense, but really it comes down to fixing that defense. And the guys who are available at corner, I know it's got the Auburn product up at number 1, but Utah's Jalen Johnson is a guy who I've heard linked to several first-round mocks. And personally, I don't really agree. But I think at this point, it's not a stretch to say he's the best corner available. So I think Jalen Johnson will go at 42.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Again, a lot of these corners are good press man. This guy out of Auburn is not really. He's more of a lengthy corner who can, for 5'11", he's got good length, and he's more of a zone corner, which a lot of teams don't really look for anymore. Very few teams run very specific.
I love we're avoiding saying his name because neither you and I can pronounce that last name.
Pronounce it. Yes, you'd be correct.
There's no way we could possibly say that.
No. Okay.
All right, so you got Chicago now at 43.
Chicago, first pick in the draft for them because I believe their first rounder this year also went with that Khalil Mack trade from a couple years ago. So, first pick for them here. Again, you look at their needs. I agree with these top 3 needs with interior offensive line, corner, and safety. But I'm looking at what the board has to offer, and I'm not really seeing anything that stands out to me at 43. I like Chin out of Southern Illinois here a lot, but I don't see him going this high. I see him as a early 50s, mid 50s type of pick. But I look at the tackles available between Wilson and Cleveland.
I would caution against taking a tackle because I know the guys in Chicago right now are probably fairly established cornerback tackles. So they've been around for a little while. I don't know if they're going to look to replace Charles Leno because I know he's been there for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
And I also know that Bobby – I don't know about Bobby Massey as much, but they might – if they're going to replace one of them, probably him. At the same point, he's also a veteran player who's made a bunch of starts for them in the past couple of years. So I don't think they would go tackle per se.
Right. It's a tough one. I think I'm going to go Chin here because I look at his measurables. He's a big safety, almost another Swiss Army knife type of guy because he's got the size to play safety and run support, and then he can also line up as like a sub linebacker, a nickel linebacker type of guy. So a bit of a reach, in my opinion, but fills a need for them. So I'm going to go Chin there.
Yeah, you pair him along with Eddie Jackson, Deion Bush back at the safety spot.
Yeah.
And other guy who I like at the safety spot, I'm not going to pick with this next pick, but another guy I want to talk about this next guy available, Kyle Duggar, who's
Hmm.
potentially a steal for them. He's from a D3 school, I think, or maybe I forget it's D3 or D2, but it's from a private school. And he actually played pretty well. He did lit it up at the Senior Bowl. So he's a guy who is fairly accomplished, but not many people know about him because he didn't play D1 football. But
Right.
it's probably going to be him or Jeremy Chin here for like really that 4th or 5th spot safety. But now we go back to the Colts. And we just had them pick a little bit earlier. We have them go wide receiver, had them take Laviska Shenault. So that fixes one of their biggest needs, in my opinion. And now it's now you might be playing with house money a little bit. Now at this point, you traded for Buckner, you got your top receiver. Now it's kind of like, what do you want to do here? What are you looking for?
Right.
And quarterback is like, quarterback staring me right in the face because I feel like this is an Indianapolis move to take a cornerback, but I really don't think that'd be a smart move, so I'm going to avoid doing it. Instead, I think they'll go tight end because they like running 2 tight end sets sometimes, including Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron. Obviously, they lost Eric Ebron to the Steelers this year, so I think they're going to go tight end. And my top tight end is Cole Kmet. I think they're going to take him, even though that's probably a little bit early for him. As you can see, like the tight ends this year are not very highly rated, but I think they would go Cole Kmet and make sure they get the first tight end on the board.
Yeah, I agree. Losing Eric Ebron definitely hurts them this offseason to your Steelers. So, again, you mentioned the 2 tight end sets. I think Cole Kmet can definitely hop right in there and fill that role for them. A great player. A little early, I agree with you, but again, their need kind of outweighs what they're going to do there. So,
all right, now on to Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who do you think they're going to take?
Yeah, this board is not going the way I have it going in a lot of my personal mocks. It's definitely interesting to see what we're doing. I have Jonathan Taylor gone by this point, but if he's there for Tampa Bay, I look at them. They've drafted 2 running backs the past 2 years who have not worked out for them. You look at Ronald Jones, who's been kind of a disappointment, and they have other running backs in those rooms that really haven't developed well. And I think I look at Taylor here, who's a pro-ready back. I have him to Houston early in the second round here. In a lot of my mocks, but I'm going to take Taylor here for Tampa Bay, and they just continue to give a bunch of weapons to Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think if he's available, I don't think there's any way he could possibly pass that up. I think that has to be your move. I mean, that'd be like perfect for them too. That'd be a terrific find for them.
Right.
It'd be very scary for everyone else in that division.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So now on to Denver. And Denver's a team that I like what they've done this offseason. They add guys like Jarrell Casey, Melvin Gordon, AJ Bouye. So now I've got a lot of guys they brought in. And this could be a competitive team, actually, in that division. I could see them sneaking in, potentially getting a playoff spot. But now we can look at them. We've given them a receiver. I think pretty sure we got them Ruggs. But now I think they might have to go look for a left tackle because they drafted with a high first round pick. They took Garrett Bowles a couple years ago. He's been a total disappointment for them. I cannot understand how bad he's been for them. He's been inconsistent. He's bad. So many holding penalties, false starts, all kinds of stuff. Bad footwork, bad hands. So he's been a total disappointment. And I could see them actually taking Urza Cleveland here and trying to replace him immediately. Because I think with a second round pick after getting Ruggs, it's not necessarily too much of a risk. And I think Cleveland's a guy with high end potential to work out. Maybe not an incredibly high ceiling, but more of a refined football player who I think they would enjoy having on the team.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's got to be either one of these two, and Wilson or Cleveland. I think Cleveland fits better with what they're looking for on the offensive line at that left tackle position. So, yeah, I agree with you here. Solid pickup for Denver. This takes us to Atlanta.
On to Atlanta.
Yeah. We have them go C.J. Henderson in the first round, which might be a surprise. But, again, you look at that corner need, losing Desmond Trufant in the offseason, and they immediately replace him with C.J. Henderson. I'm going to go with their second biggest need here in interior defensive line. I look at Davidson out of Auburn. I think he's probably the third best interior defensive line in this draft. I think this is a good spot for him. If he falls to them, I think they will jump at the opportunity to take him here. So that's what I'm going to go with to Atlanta.
Yeah, there are a few concerns about Davidson. I do think he's got good potential, but I think maybe they would be more likely to take someone like Matt Bouquet because Davidson's a guy who lined up at edge a lot as well in Auburn. and some teams are confused about where they're going to line up. Some teams view him as an edge rusher more than a defensive tackle type prospect. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a very good player. I just think some teams are concerned about where he's going to line up in the NFL.
Right, I agree with you, but you look at the team needs for Atlanta. I have them needing an edge rusher and an interior defensive lineman, both pretty high on their team needs. So I like you mentioned, he lined up on both positions there, but I think so he fills both of their needs wherever they decide to line him up.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine either way. I don't think they have a problem if they can. Like you said, if you can do both for them, they can move him around a little bit. That's probably all the better for them, right?
Oh, absolutely. Versatility on defense.
So that moves us on to the Jets right now. The Jets are a team that offensive line's an issue, and even if they add a bunch of free agents this offseason, I don't personally think there's enough guys or enough high-quality guys to go offensive line at this point in the draft. You probably might want to look towards the next draft if you're going to fix that.
Well, they also we had them take Jedrick Wills in round 1 here.
Well, yeah, that's true. But they have a lot of offensive needs too. Like, it's not just one guy. They're going to need a lot of pieces to fix that. But having edge and receiver are the ones you want to look at. There's some good edge prospects, but at this point, if you've got T. Higgins still on the board, and I think by this point, he's probably by far the highest rated receiver left. I think T. Higgins is going to be the guy just because he's the most talented player left at the receiver spot.
Yeah, I agree. That's in a lot of my mocks. I have Higgins either going to Green Bay round 1 or falling this far to the Jets in round 2. So I'd have to agree with you here. I'm going to give you this next one because you're the Steelers fan. I'm going to give you this pick.
Thank you, Mark. So Pittsburgh has this is their first pick in the draft, and honestly, I'm very torn. Like I'm pretty decided about what I want all the other teams to do. Mm-hmm. And I guess in Pittsburgh, and I'm kind of like, oh, I don't even know. Like, there's so much we could potentially do here. Yeah. I just look at the board, and I'm like, I mean, there's Cam Akers or Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back to potentially challenge James Conner. I like both those guys. There's receivers. Someone like Michael Pittman Jr. has incredible versatility. I would love someone like him on the team, even though we've got so many receivers already. Really, we probably need an interior defensive lineman. It really pains me to potentially go to this spot because there's so much other there's so many more flashier players I would like to get.
Oh yeah,
but we just lost. I can't remember his name now, but we just lost a really good defensive tackle to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Javon Hargrave.
Yeah, but we lost Javon Hargrave to Philadelphia. I think he was a very underrated piece of our defensive scheme. Mm-hmm. I think he's why Cam Hayward had so much success this past year. So you go look at the defensive tackles or interior defensive linemen. Justin Matabuke is still available. They rank him at 52. Pittsburgh picks at 49. For me, it's close enough. I think they go interior defensive line here.
Yeah, I'd agree. The way our board was going, I might have had him go Jordan Love here just because Big Ben is on his way out.
Don't do that, Mark. Don't do that to me.
Big Ben's on his way out, and I don't think Mason Rudolph really showed enough last year. Maybe they'll roll with him again if Roethlisberger gets hurt. But I was worried you were going to go quarterback there.
Ben can't retire here, Mark. All right, he can't retire. We need him. I need him. I can't survive with Mason Rudolph, man.
Yeah, I feel you.
Wait,
rough season
your pick now.
Pittsburgh. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is my pick. Okay, so I'll go back to back now, and then we'll get back on track with the every other. Okay, so back to Chicago. We look at their team needs. Chicago, I think, is a rebuilding team that doesn't want to admit it. They won the division, obviously, 2 years ago, and then they kind of went downhill from there. Mitch Trubisky really regressed. So at this point, I look at those team needs at interior offensive line and corner. There's no interior offensive lineman worth it to me at this point. I really like Cushenberry at LSU. I think he's a great prospect, but I wouldn't reach for him here. I like this corner out of Auburn at this point. We'll call him Noah because I'm not going to try to read that last name.
Yeah, I know. It's bad. We can't I can't read that.
Yeah, I wonder how Roger Goodell is going to have to announce it in a couple of weeks.
They probably talk him through it. They're like, here's the pronunciation. Say it real slow a bunch of times the night before.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think that's who they go with here. For me, it's a toss-up. I could have them go Cushenberry the third there at LSU, either corner or offensive line, but I see them going corner there.
Yeah, and they do need help. So they brought in Artie Burns to be like their second corner or third corner. And as a
Right.
Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I can tell you, Artie Burns is pretty bad. So you need a little help there. I
Yeah.
think now you go again now.
Yeah. I just want to look something up here for the Cowboys.
What are you looking up? Talk to the audience, Mark.
Okay. I wanted to see, because it blanked on me, and I should know it, what Travis Frederick played, and he played center.
Yeah.
I have to confirm there. And I look at, again, I know I just said I don't want to reach for an interior offensive line, but Dallas has had a scary offensive line the past couple of years. And I think they probably want to continue to do that. They want to plug and play right away with Travis Frederick's replacement. And I scroll down a lot here. I don't agree with this, but I look at Hennessy out of Temple, who's my favorite center in this draft. He's immediately, you plug him in, he's an instant starter with a Pro Bowl ceiling. So I think they go with him at 51. A bit of a reach maybe to some people, but that I think it's a sleeper pick for them.
Yeah, it actually caught me surprised a little bit there. Yeah, I think they could take a center in the draft, but I don't know. They've played the guy they have coming in right now, Joe Looney's played center a little bit for them in the past when Frederick was hurt. Remember, he missed all last year with sickness. So they could take center here. They could also go defensive back, one of the two. I think it's a flip. You never know with Dallas, though, because Dallas is just that kind of team.
Yeah.
As long as Jerry Jones controls the draft, you never can predict what they're going to do.
Very unpredictable down there, yes.
And now this brings up the Rams with, I believe, their first pick of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams are kind of, in my opinion, the same boat as the Bears, just with a bit better of a quarterback. They're kind of rebuilding.
Yeah.
But it's also because they've screwed themselves with the cap situation because they signed Aaron Donald to a big deal. They signed Jared Goff to a big deal. They had Gurley on a big contract. So they've really shot themselves in the foot a little bit.
Yes.
And at this point, I mean, you might as well kind of pick the best available player or try to find who you think the best available player is.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at the running back situation. I think Malcolm Brown is your best running back now on your team, and that's not going to fly. You need someone to help balance out the running and pass game, especially because Jared Goff needs that run game. He's only successful when you can have the running and passing game working together.
100%.
So I'm going to go to LSU, and I'm going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, that's a solid place for him. I agree. They also they drafted a guy last year. I think his name is Henderson out of
Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, Darrell Henderson. But he battled injuries last year. I looked up his stats when I was doing my latest personal mock to see if they would take a running back here. And I didn't like what I saw with him, so I don't think he can be reliable. But I think Edwards-Helaire really solidifies for them. So solid pick.
So Philadelphia now, this is your pick.
Yeah. Wow. This is a lot of pressure because I don't have them double dipping on wide receivers the first 2 rounds, but the way this board has gone, they might have to with the guys that are still available. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. Say what you were going to say.
No, I was going to say, you're a Philly fan yourself, but you can know this, that Philly fans will tear you apart regardless of who you are if you make a pick they don't agree with.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really tough. I have them going corner here and sometimes safety. In one of my personal mocks, I had him take Hennessy, but obviously I had Dallas steal him away. But I look at KJ Hamler on the board here, and I think if he falls this far, like we said with Tampa Bay taking what's his name, the running back, Jonathan Taylor. We look at Tampa Bay taking them just because he fell so far. I don't see KJ Hamler falling this far, but if he does, I think the Eagles jump on the opportunity to take him because now we had him take Justin Jefferson in round 1, who's kind of a big body, a good route runner, good hands, and then KJ Hamler is this speed wide receiver that could just take the top off the defensive backfield there. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I don't have KJ Hamler ranked that high, but I understand what you're saying. If you're looking for that speed to really take it off, take the top off the defenses, he's definitely your guy. Even though I think Michael Pittman Jr. and Brandon Ayuk are more complete players, if you're looking for that speed, I think Hamler's definitely got to be your guy at this point.
Yeah, and Howie Roseman in the offseason interviews, he said the Eagles are just looking for speed all over the field, doesn't matter the position. So, yeah, if Hamler falls to them, they're going to take him, no doubt in my mind.
All right, that brings up Buffalo now.
Cleveland.
What?
We did that trade.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at my own board. I got my own board following me along, so I'm not looking at what you're seeing. But yeah, all right. Thanks for catching me on that. So Cleveland's up. I'm I mean, really, like we've talked about this. The interior offensive line is a little bit a place that needs some help right now. I think that's probably biggest need, maybe corner a little bit, but I don't think there's going to be a corner that you really want at this point. And there's really going to be a linebacker, which you don't. They want at this point, and you also need linebacker help. You don't really have that at this point in the draft. Let's face it, linebacker depth is really bad this year. There's maybe 3 or 4 good linebackers, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, might be a little bit of a reach. It might be a little bit of a controversial pick, but if you're Cleveland, you talked about Lloyd Cushenberry, and if you really think he's that good, I mean, think that's probably the place you can go. I mean, you've got a guy in J.C. Treader who's had it for a couple of years now at center. But I don't think if you've got a guy who can clearly upgrade him, be an upgrade for him in round 2, I think you pull the trigger and make that pick.
Yeah, I agree. My backup pick for them is a safety because earlier in my personal mock, I have them taking Winfield Jr. there, but obviously the Giants took him. So I agree with this pick 100%. I think they really need help on the inside of the offensive line. We had them go offensive tackle with Becton in the first round, and then they continue to put the ring around Baker Mayfield here to get him the protection he needs. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with this.
Now you've got Baltimore.
Baltimore's interesting. It's a tough one for me. But my pre-free agency mock drafts, I had them taken into your defensive line, and then again they went all over in free agency and trades, bolstering their defensive line. So I don't see them going defensive line early here. I look at interior offensive line and wide receiver, and I look at these wide receivers still available, and I'm blown away by it because, like you mentioned, Ayuk and Pittman Jr. are pretty good prospects and the well-developed players. But also Jonah Jackson at Ohio State is a good interior offensive lineman too. So it's going to be a toss-up for me for them. Just based on sheer talent with this wide receiver class, I'm going to have them go Ayuk here.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State had a really good final year with the team. And that's also a team that really improved a lot in the last couple of years because they got new coaching changes and stuff like that. So they turned out to be a really good team. And I think he's honestly potentially a first-round caliber wide receiver who you can get late or in the middle of the second round. So I think that's a huge deal for them. I think people forget that they might have taken Marquise Brown last year, and he had some good games, but he didn't have a great year. He had a lot of injuries as well. Right. So I think fixing that or looking at that wide receiver spot is definitely something that you should consider. And I like that you addressed it here.
Yeah, just continuing to bolster that wide receiver position for them.
Yep. And now we're back to Miami again. Miami's got so many picks in this first round, it's throwing me off. Or in the second round, it's throwing me off. But
a lot of potential here.
Oh yeah, they could honestly become the best team in that division if they do this the right way.
Draft right, yeah, it's gonna be scary.
That's a huge if though. But I'm looking at what's available right now. And I like some of the interior offensive linemen that are available, but I don't think Miami is going to go that way because I think they like their guards. They just added a new center, right guard, and Michael Dieter, someone they've drafted, someone they picked themselves, and they've got Eric Flowers at left guard who they just signed. So I don't think they're going to go interior offensive line. I do think they probably want some pass rush help. And I look at the two best guys who are available stand out to me are Curtis Weaver and Julian Okwara. Those are the two guys that I think stand out above everyone else that's left at this point. And I think I'm going to take – it's kind of a toss. I think I'm going to go with Julian Okwara here.
Wow, interesting.
It's weird because, like, honestly, the edge rushers for this class are so all over the place because I've seen people evaluate them one way. I've seen people evaluate them a different way. And to me, honestly, what this just tells me is that no one has any idea where these edge rushers are going to be any good outside of Chase Young. No one has any clue what they're talking about besides Chase Young.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. So, yeah, it's kind of a toss-up with these guys, but, yeah, I think it's a solid pick for them. I had to reevaluate my needs for the Texans here. See, it's tough because I know I'd love to go edge here, like these guys say, because I agree with them, just because we don't know what J.J. Watt's injury He's become kind of an injury-prone player. When he's healthy, he's a beast, obviously, but when he's not, it's a problem for the Texans on defense. At the wide receiver position, I'm gonna pull the board up here. They do still have they have Will Fuller there, but I don't think he's a true number one receiver. He's more of a wide receiver two who thrives when you have a good wide receiver one, like they had in DeAndre Hopkins. And I look at Pittman Jr. here. You've mentioned him. He's a solid look at the size, 6'4", 219, almost similar to the DeAndre Hopkins type. It's tough for me, man. Yeah, I'm gonna go Pittman Jr. here to Houston.
Yeah, he's a very good player. It's probably gonna be tough no matter who Houston picks, because if you're getting drafted by the Texans in the first or second round at receiver, you're probably going to be expected to be their best receiver or the second best guy. It's just gonna be very hard for Deshaun Watson and that team to go together. Because, like I said, if Will Fuller is your best guy, he's already gonna miss 4 or 6 games guaranteed, because that's just what he does. So you're going to have him gone for a while, and then it's all going to be on you as a rookie. So it's going to be very tricky for Houston skill players this year.
Right.
But I don't disagree. I think Pittman Jr. is a great player who I would love to see succeed at the NFL level. And that brings us back to the Minnesota Vikings, who we had picked a couple guys already. But Minnesota is a team that underwhelmed for me last year. I expect them to be better just because of the personnel they had. I do think receivers are a problem now because your second best guy after Adam Thielen was like Tajay Sharpen or someone like that. So you're at a point where wide receiver depth has gone from being a strength to an issue. And maybe even along the offensive line to a sense, some guys are kind of questionable, maybe at right guard. But I think in this draft, with the guys flying off the board and what I know, I think you're probably looking at receivers. I think it makes sense that even if you could probably get some guys later on, you look at receivers right now. They have Chase Claypool rated very highly. I like Claypool, but I think he's also a very raw prospect with some issues. So I don't know if you would take him this early. I think he's more of a third-round guy.
I agree.
It's difficult because all the guys left on the board now at receiver are pretty much third-round guys, in my opinion. I know you like DPJ, but I still have a third-round grade on him. I don't know if I would take him this high.
Yeah, it's tough. We've kind of gotten, and just to jump in there, I'm not going to pick for you, but we've kind of, for me at least, we've kind of gotten into, I call it like my tier 3 for the wide receivers. Pittman Jr. was my last tier 2. I have a big tier 2 wide receivers prospect here. So like you mentioned, I don't know that I would take a receiver here, but the way they're jumping off the board, you might have to.
No, I'm right there with you. I think we're definitely at a different level at this point. But I mentioned Minnesota having issues on the interior offensive line. Like I said, I don't want to reach for wide receivers, especially when there's still guys who are going to be there in the 4th and 5th round who are still going to be good. So I'm actually just going to take Jonah Jackson, make the easy pick, and take the best interior offensive line who's still available.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I'm high on Jackson. I think he's really good. I think he can definitely he'll probably be a developmental player for them. I don't know if he'll start right away, but maybe he'll be given the opportunity to compete there for a starting job. So solid pickup for them.
Now it takes us over to Seattle.
Yeah, you stole my pick there. But I look at Wilson falling this high, or Isaiah Wilson falling this high out of Georgia. They do need help on the offensive line. We've known that for a couple of years now. They haven't really addressed it, in my opinion, in a serious matter. Wilson's kind of a raw prospect, so it'd be risky to take him. But you look at his measurables at 6'7", 340. I think he's exact. Like it'd be hard to pass on a big body like that to protect Russell Wilson. So pair Wilson with Wilson for me.
Well, I also think he's very effective in the running game. That's what Seattle loves to do with Chris Carson. Yeah. So I think that's a perfect fit for them. I think that's great. I think that's a perfect pair of them. I think they're going to really like that. And with the second round pick, that's not as much of a risk as it would be if it was a first round selection. Like I said, Seattle screwed up so many of their first round picks recently that I wouldn't trust them to make the pick on an offensive lineman anyway. So I'm glad you get them in the second round. I think that's a very good pick. That takes us over to Baltimore. I guess Baltimore's a tricky team because they've got so much that it's difficult to see what they don't have at this point. Because they really could probably focus on the interior offensive line because they just lost Marshall Yanda to retirement. But I don't know. I don't know if that's really where they want to go. Like, I don't know if they really want to use a pick there. because they've got some guys. They trust. I think they trust what they have in the building. That's really what Baltimore has always done. Is they always like the guys they have in the building. They always make sure they build and have some viable backups. But I mean, even a guy like Ben Powers, the guy they have starting at right guard right now, he didn't play last year, but he was a fourth-round pick for them. So they have trust in this guy that he can develop into something. I don't know if that means you go into your offensive line because I think you do have faith in your guys. But looking at their roster, you could still maybe use some depth on the edge. I don't know if you don't need it, but you could just try go for it, make yourself richer. I'd probably take I messed up the name. Raekwon Davis from Alabama, just because he's a guy who was rated very high a couple of years ago and never really solidified himself. He kind of fell off a little bit in college, but I think you could get some of that back out of him at the pro level. And I think that's a guy who could just basically solidify your defensive line.
Yeah, I have to agree. I have them taking a defensive lineman at this spot anyway. So I think it's a good pick for them. We mentioned Derrick Henry last year running all over them. So they obviously don't want that to happen again. So the better your defense, the better your chances are in the playoffs should you meet Tennessee. So I have to agree with you. Stealing my pick again for the Titans here.
Now you're going back to now you got Tennessee now.
Yeah, it's tough. I look at the next best interior defensive lineman in Hamilton here, and I think we mentioned the tiers. I think he's my top tier 3 at this point in the interior defensive lineman. I want to throw a curveball here, I really do, but I don't think the audience would really like it.
What are you thinking, quarterback or receiver?
Yeah, I'm looking at Jordan Love still on the board here. I know they just signed Tannehill to that monstrous 4-year deal, but I don't see that playing out for them. He's a game manager at best. I think the front office was blind with that because Derrick Henry clearly led them through the playoffs there. And then once Kansas City figured out how to stop them, it all kind of fell apart. They need a quarterback of the future. If Jordan Love falls to 61, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger. I think they get their quarterback of the future here.
Mark, that was my Green Bay pick.
I know. I had a feeling for the same reasons because we don't know how long A-Rod's got.
Yeah, I think A-Rod's also got history injuries too, so I'm a little bit concerned about his durability in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go over to Green Bay now, we talked about pass catchers. They already got a wide receiver. I'll continue going to that end here, honestly, because they expected a lot from Jimmy Graham, and they didn't get anything really in return for their money. There are a couple guys on the board who I like. I like Thaddeus Moss. I like Hunter Bryant. I like Andrew Troutman. I like Harrison Bryant from Florida Atlantic down at 168. I like him a lot too, but I think Hunter Bryant's probably going to be the guy at this point. I know they have them graded all a lot lower than this, but I think you're going back to pass catcher again because that's what Aaron Rodgers wants, and I think Hunter Bryant is going to be the guy from Washington.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I have Cole Kmet falling to them in round 2, but the way things went, Cole Kmet went very early to the Colts. So I think they take the best available tight end at a position they very much need. Like you mentioned, Jimmy Graham was underwhelming for them. So again, I agree with this pick here.
All right, now you got the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Who do you think they're going to take?
Yeah, man, this is tough. I look at the guys available. I like these players. I don't like them a lot for Kansas City. We had them take, I believe, J.K. Dobbins round 1.
Yeah.
So I don't see them dipping into running back again as much as they'd like to load onto offense. I think they're pretty much set on the offensive side of the ball. Really only need an interior offensive lineman there. I look at these corners available. I really like Arnett at Ohio State. I think he's a very underrated player. I put him in my low tier 1 for these corners, right up there with Gladney. Dantzler out of Mississippi State, too, is also very good. These are my last 2 kind of second-round worthy picks. I'm going to go Arnett with them here. I think he fits their scheme well. I think he fits what they're looking to do at the defensive back position.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what I was looking as well, and that's what I thought they were going to do. So I'm glad you went there too. But now that brings us down to the final pick of the second round, and it's the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks
Mhm.
are always a very interesting team because they're always going to be in the hunt. As long as they have Russell Wilson at quarterback, they're always going to be competitive. But I just don't know if they're ever going to be great like they once were when they had Legion of Boom defense. I just don't think they're ever going to reach that level of play again. But they've gone edge. They've gone offensive tackle. I don't think they go interior offensive lineman here. Their tight ends pretty set. Their safeties, I think they like their safeties. They're going to stick with what they have. Even their linebackers, I think they're probably good at linebacker for now. So they might just go wide receiver and try to give Russell Wilson one more guy to throw to. Again, I don't think there's any guy at receiver who I really love at the spot. But they took DK Metcalf last year. They have Tyler Lockett now. They signed Philip Dorsett during free agency. I think they could add one more guy. And just if they get that one more guy, they could probably tip themselves over the top. And the guy who I like a bunch of these guys. I just don't know if I like them at this spot, which is kind of what frustrates me. Because I'm trying to find like a value for my buck kind of here.
Right.
But I mean, KJ Hamler from Ohio State is a freak athlete who I think could be very good. Van Jefferson's one of the best route runners in the entire draft. Chase Claypool, you got the size, and just the sheer size would probably be a great player. But you've got similar prospect in last year in DK Metcalf, so I think they're probably going to go someone different, and that might be Van Jefferson from Florida. I know it's probably way too high for him to go at this point, but I think it's probably an interesting pick for them because they got the intrigue of that great route runner. So I think Van Jefferson's the guy they're going to go with.
Yeah, I agree. And that'll find out it's the draft here. But just to add on to that, and we'll go back down to him. Yeah, you look at Metcalf, got that big body, the size there, but Van Jefferson really gives you the route running you're talking about, and then Tyler Lockett is the clear cut number one. So just adding more depth to that pretty stacked wide receiver room as it is, I don't think they can go wrong there.
Yep. All right, well that basically wraps up our round 2 of the 2020 NFL mock draft. Mark, you can save that and just email to me or text me the link, and I'll add it into the description later after the video gets posted. But that wraps it up for us. Is there anything you want to plug, Mark? Anything you want to put out there?
No. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I know me and Sam both love doing mock drafts. I know Sam on his channel has those spontaneous ones. I do them too whenever I'm just bored, especially during this quarantine. I just throw on the simulator and see what I can get for different teams. So we both enjoy doing this a lot. So continued support there is appreciated.
All right. Well, that'll be it for us, guys. So thanks for tuning in. If you haven't seen round 1, you can go back and watch that. There's probably a few videos to the right on your screen. So feel free to go check that out. For now, that's it for me and Mark. Mark, I'll talk to you later, okay?
Yep. Thanks, Sam.
All right. Thanks for doing this. All right. See you all later.